Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Shark, a podcast live stream about all things pop culture. I'm Final Monkey,
And I'm Caleb.
and today we are talking about one of my favorite things in the whole wide world, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We've seen so many different iterations of Ninja Turtles over the years, so I thought it'd be fun today to just go over the history of Ninja Turtles and pick out which we think is the greatest iteration, best version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But
And, th-
before that, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
and this will be another one where we probably disagree on a lot.
This will be a very different list. We come from two very different generations. I was kind of like on the ground floor of Ninja Turtles when it was first starting. And then Caleb's about almost 20 years later.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very interesting, different perspectives.
Hmm.
Um, but before that, DC dropped some major news. So we're going to get to that briefly. And before that, we're going to do our weekly check in. Caleb, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I did my taxes.
Oh,
And what I've set aside to do, because we are going to be going to Disney to Galaxy's Edge this May. And so what I told myself was I am going to do my taxes, get my tax returns, and then I'm going to immediately put it away. And whatever I get, that is what I'm spending at Disney at Galaxy's Edge. And so, with that being said, I actually ended up getting a little bit more, and I'm excited. I will be coming home with a little more than um, $1,000 worth of Star Wars memorabilia from Disney World.
well, I mean, that assumes you don't eat anything at Disney World because that's going to cost you $1,000
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
So,
Well, no, that's the thing. That's the thing. My parents, whenever, because this is my birthday gift. They're like, we'll take care of food and everything, but
oh, those suckers, that's going
yeah,
to be a lot of money.
yeah. They're like, if you want a lightsaber, you got to pay for it. And I'm like, I will pay for all of my lightsabers. I'm gonna be like General Grievous with my
Oh, gosh.
lightsabers. But yeah, honestly, that was really the most entertaining thing that happened this week was I did my taxes. So it's kind
And,
of
and
like,
to be fair, doing your taxes is not as bad as it was like 20 years ago. There's so many websites that basically do it for you. You just plug in the numbers and
it was great. Well, it was even better than it was last year because last year, you still have to plug in the numbers and whatnot. But one of the because I got a new job and then another job was from last year. All I had to do was put in like the ID number at the top, and it auto filled everything in.
that's nice.
It
And of
was
course, you don't
great.
have kids and all that, so you don't have to worry about dependents and all that fun stuff. So,
Yeah. The only thing was I had to put in like my student loans, but that's fine too. That's not a problem.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, what about yourself?
Doing pretty good. We had a ice storm here in Texas that kind of shut down the whole city, but
Mm,
or most of the state actually. But I work at home, so I still had to work every day. So everybody else around me was like out of school, out of work, just chilling, and I was still going to work every day. So that kind of sucked. But
yeah, it doesn't seem that bad because like sometimes that counts towards your PTO and whatnot. So it's nice to not have to waste any of that.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, So I did get a gargoyle in the mail. I haven't opened him yet. Hudson finally has arrived in the mail. If you don't remember, he's the older gargoyle voiced by Ed Asner. So that is really cool. It looks like we're getting a new gargoyle figure released about every other month. So that's pretty cool. I think the next one will be Broadway, um, which is the one that's voiced by the guy who voices Patrick Starr.
Okay.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. Um, sounds like, and this may have been a news segment if I thought about it ahead of time. We're about to get another Target Haulathon, which was terrible last year. Basically, that's where NECA releases all their new toys. The problem is, and like they'll release so many every week. Like here's this new one or that new one. The problem is not every target participates, and you don't know which targets are participating, and the one down the street from me does not participate, and it's just a real mess.
Yeah.
And so a list has leaked online of all the stuff that's going to be released at the end of February, and it's a long, long list, and a lot of it's stuff that I've been waiting on. So we'll see how this goes. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be very expensive.
Yeah, and this year is the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi, so Hasbro announced a bunch of Black Series stuff in regards to Return of the Jedi. So this could have been a toy stream.
Yeah, but like there's some. We'll talk today about TMNT Adventures, which was an Archie comic back when I was a kid, and there's a lot of unique characters that are unique to that comic book that have never gotten toys, and so those toys will finally be coming out at the end of the month. So I'm very excited about that. But they're all coming out at one time. Right. Like, oh, spread it out. And that giant Triceratops Zog figure is gonna be like $50. He's coming out. And it's like, all right. I chose this path, So, all right, let's get to the news. We're just gonna talk about one news story today. We had a pretty big bombshell. James Gunn announced the plans for the DC movie universe going forward. And it's a mix of TV shows, movies, cartoon shows. So let's get into that. And I haven't talked to you since the initial announcement. So let's pull up the list, and then we'll get our feelings about how we feel about all of this. So looks like the list that you have up is not quite the order he announced it in, which is fine because I thought he announced them in a very weird order. First off, Superman Legacy as a Superman movie. James Gunn is writing. He might direct it.
I think he's going to direct it.
Yeah. I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I think this is just speculation, is going to be about his son Jonathan Kent.
Yes.
And about him being a father while also trying to be a superhero would be my guess what this is.
And I think that kind of goes into the Batman movie that we'll talk about here in a second.
Yeah.
Which makes me excited because that means that we'll be getting a Super Sons movie at some point.
Yeah. Next is The Authority.
Yes.
Authority was a comic book in the 90s, I think.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I know it was a big deal in Wizard Comics or Wizard Magazine back in the day.
Yep.
Basically, I'm pretty sure it was Warren Ellis was writing a comic that was like a really brutal take on the Avengers.
Yes.
And it's kind of like what you see now with The Boys, that type of style of a superhero story.
Yeah.
So this will be their take on that. And this was largely what inspired the Ultimates when that started, was The Authority, which was a parody of Avengers.
This is also where the Elite comes from, for those who are familiar with Hat and Manchester Black and all them.
And that's from that infamous Superman story where, I know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah. Brave and the Bold. This is a Batman Robin movie with Damian as Robin.
Yes.
So it's Batman struggling to be a father while also struggling to deal with his son, who's a crazy assassin.
I love Damian.
So this will be interesting movie. We got Supergirl World of Tomorrow, based on a Tom King book where Supergirl was lived on a piece of Krypton after it exploded.
Yep.
She's had a horrible life, and now she's coming to Earth, and how she deals with not having loving parents like Superman did and trying to fit in. Let's see. Swamp Thing. I think this is this a movie?
Yep.
Okay. It's Swamp Thing. There's not much else to say about it. I'm actually a big Swamp Thing fan, so
I
that's
love
cool.
Swamp Thing.
On TV shows, this is what he started the announcements with. It was kind of an odd choice. It kind of put everything in a weird mood. Creature Commandos is an animated. It's kind of like all these various monsters and Weasel and Rick Flag. Senior, yeah. And so I assume this will be like during World War II. Marvel's done similar things with their monster characters, making them agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff. So this is something similar that both these studios have done, both in comic books. Waller is a spinoff of Peacemaker, which is a spinoff of Suicide Squad. Interesting choice. I don't know if people are screaming for an Amanda Waller show, but here it is.
I'm wondering if this will be kind of like Secret Invasion, where like Secret Invasion's kind of the Nick Fury show, but it's not.
Yeah, I almost feel like this was supposed to be something else, and James Gunn didn't have time to do it. So they said, okay, well, we'll do a Waller thing just to keep the Suicide Squad story going, and then eventually you can do Peacemaker season 2 or something, you know. Lanterns is like a cop show of Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, which I think could be interesting.
I mean, Lanterns, the Green Lanterns, for those of you who for those of you who are unfamiliar, are the space cops, and so let's make this a Law and Order in space. That's what I want.
Yeah, they describe it as what was that show called? True Detective? Was that what it was called?
Oh, True Detective. Yeah, I love True Detective.
Yeah, that's what they're describing it as.
Okay, I could get down with that. What I want, I just need there to be a Lenny Briscoe Green Lantern.
Oh yeah,
or like he's just making jokes.
Make it the, and I can't think of. I'm not the DC expert like others are, but the one that has like the beak, the Green Lantern.
Tomari.
Yeah, make him like the Lenny Briscoe.
That would be amazing. and then Kilowog is Christopher Maloney.
Yeah. Just go for it, Yeah, I would almost take Law and Order scripts and just change them and just insert the characters
right. In the criminal justice system. Space cops.
Yeah, I wish they put us in charge. This would be awesome if we were in charge. And we'll talk about that next week. We're gonna do our takes on these more in depth next week, and and also kind of pitch our ideas.
Right. Because I already have my fan cast for Superman, and I think it's pretty spicy.
So if you want to know what that is, tune in next week. Paradise Lost is a Wonder Woman prequel story that's similar to Game of Thrones.
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah. Lastly, we have Booster Gold.
Yeah.
We're big fans of Booster Gold. He's a kind of a loser from the future that comes to the present, act like he's a big superhero who has all these endorsements, and he's sent for the money. He's kind of a jerk.
Did you ever see Mystery Men with Ben Stiller?
Oh yeah.
Booster Gold has always reminded me of Captain Amazing.
Right.
like Pepsi is on his costume.
I'm almost willing to put money on this skin speculation that Chris Pratt will be playing Booster Gold. I can almost guarantee it.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. So these are the shows. Caleb, what is your opinion, excitement level briefly about this? Like I said, we'll get into this more next week.
Incredibly excited. So I am done with us trying to like in terms of Batman, like how many times have we made Long Halloween into a movie? Like, oh, this is based on Long Halloween. Oh, we're inspired by Long Halloween. I mean, it's about time we're getting to Batman and Son and Black Glove and R.I.P. It's about time we're getting there. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Tom King's Supergirl. I'm just a big fan of Tom King in general. So I'm excited for that. I love The Authority. They're one of the only cynical superheroes that I like. because I'm actually not a fan of The Boys. I'm not a fan of your regular Watchmen and whatnot. Like, I'm down with the Authority, and they're doing it right. Start off with Superman. That is what you do. That's how it should have been. And then I also love that it doesn't matter how many times it fails. Swamp Thing has to be in every single roadmap they've ever made. Because and I love Swamp Thing. I've loved all of the Wes Craven's Swamp Thing, the Swamp Thing show, but they do still fail. But I love that we're putting it there. And then as far as television shows, I'm really excited for Lanterns and Booster Gold. Everything else, I probably could have take it or leave it. But I'm excited that we're getting stuff. I also think it's interesting that this is going to Creature Commandos is going to be an animated show in universe, which is interesting.
Yeah, and so they said that we will still have, like, this is going to be the main continuity. We'll still have Elseworlds movies that don't fit into these continuities. So we'll get a Batman 2 or a Joker 2, Teen Titans Go, those sorts of things. Will have their own continuities.
Now, one thing that I'm not down with is I know they've said something about like all the video games going forward will be set in this universe. So they're not aping on Marvel at this point. This is definitely more like Star Wars, where the movies, the video games, I assume some comics, it'll all be connected in that way. That I'm not down with. Because I don't know, you don't get Arkham games when they have to deal with the shared universe.
So we haven't talked since they announced it. So here's my thoughts. I was very excited when they first announced this, and then the more I thought about it, the more I heard, the more my excitement dropped as we, as I thought about these things. The main issue is they're still talking like Ezra Miller is going to be around as the Flash.
Yeah. Even James Gunn himself said, "Let's see what happens." I'm like, are you serious? We have been seeing what happens.
And we're not going to get into it in detail in here, but you can Google it yourself. The star of Shazam, Zachary Levi, said some stuff that got him in trouble recently. I don't think it should have got him in trouble, but that's Twitter being Twitter. So James Gunn did call him out on that, but he won't call it Ezra Miller. And it was just kind of, you're not the one who should be talking about tweets, buddy.
Right.
So just some weird stuff like that just kind of made me feel like, okay. The other issue I have is it feels like we're jumping in like Act 3 of all this stuff. Like, this is, if I was doing it, and we'll talk more about this next week, I would have done like a Robin movie about Dick Grayson first before we get to the Damian stuff, But Authority, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I've read it back in the day. It was all right. It's just sometimes these books just feel like they're being extreme just for the sake of being extreme.
Sure.
Let's see. I think Lanterns could be really fun. I think Creature Commandos will be fine. Booster Gold sounds great. I'm not a big Wonder Woman fan, so Paradise Lost, I could take it or leave that.
Let me ask you this, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this, but you said that you think Chris Pratt is going to be Booster Gold, okay? Right?
Yep.
We know that he's going to be involved somehow. Who's Batista playing?
Probably someone like Bane or Kilowog, or I don't know, some big character.
It might be Drax in my head still, but Kilowog was the first person that I thought of. I'd prefer Bane, but I
think I read somewhere that he was offered Bane in Dark Knight and he turned it down and chose to play Drax instead or something. But I don't know if that's true or not. You hear things on the internet, you don't know if they're true.
I mean, for me, that's insane because I think that's a good choice on his part, not because I like Dark Knight Rises. I don't see him as that version of Bane. I think no one but Tom Hardy could have done that character.
Yeah. I know a lot of people don't like Tom King. I think it's interesting.
I
I,
love
I
Tom King.
I know you're a Tom King fan. He just he writes very he's kind of one note at times where he's always writing depressed superheroes and
Yes.
taking them apart, and so it's kind of odd to choose that as a movie for Supergirl, who hasn't really had a movie presence since what, the 80s. I mean, she's had her TV show, but who watched that? You know,
Right. My
so
friend Andrew, he did.
yeah, so it's weird because if we thought this was going to be a reboot, but then James Gunn is kind of thought like those other movies still matter.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I don't
so
know.
confused.
I don't know if he's just saying that so people will go see them, and then afterwards he go, "Oh no, you know, I'm kind of thinking the same thing with Ezra Miller. They're kind of hyping him up so people will go see Flash, and then afterwards they quietly say, "Oh yeah, we recast Flash." You know, I don't know. It's very confusing.
I'm wondering if like it's going to be like yeah, these other stories still matter. And then at the end of Flash, like everything is, Flashpoint, everything is, messed up like in some sort of a convergence or something like that.
Yeah.
And then yeah, this is the same universe, same continuity, but they are completely different characters.
The only issue with when they do these reboots and stuff, if one piece gets wrong, then you're kind of stuck with that. Like say they got like Cyborg's character wrong, or some character wrong, then everybody has to use that version of Cyborg.
Yeah.
You know, and we've seen that happen before in the comic books when they reboot, and then they get like 90% right, but a couple characters they get off, and they just don't fit.
You know what's the funniest thing? You bring up Cyborg. The funniest thing is Cyborg is the character that Zack Snyder got right. That is really funny. Out of all the characters, and I'm going based solely on the Snyder cut, because he was the best part about the Snyder cut, and I definitely see what Ray Fisher was talking about. That Joss Whedon came in and kind of cut everything to pieces. It's Zack Snyder's cut is still not a good movie, but I definitely see what he's talking about. That like, oh man, he just cut me out of the movie, and I'm not important. Yeah, I mean, like in the Zack Snyder cut, Cyborg was the main character.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's funny that that's the character that he got right out of all of them.
Yeah. So this is all coming very soon. July 11th, 2025 will be Superman. So that movie's getting rushed into production. So I think at the end of this year we get Aquaman 2, and then we'll probably have like Joker 2 for next year to tie us over until we get these new movies. Yeah. So it'll be here before you know it. So
yeah, you know what I think is insane? It's being rushed into production, and yet James Gunn has said that casting has not started yet. I'm like, I don't believe that for a second.
Oh no, they'd almost have to with all the pre-production or all the they have to already be working on special effects.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I buy that either, but we supposedly don't have a Fantastic Four cast either, so
now that I believe, because I believe that they have no idea what to do with Fantastic Four. I think they just I am at the point where I think they announced a Fantastic Four movie having no idea what to do with them, and they're like, oh, we should just announce
it. The more I see, the more I agree. I think Marvel's just focused on Young Avengers and Thunderbolts right now, and nothing else matters, and they'll figure out the rest later.
Which is unfortunate because we have said this on many occasions that Thunderbolts lineup is garbage.
Awful. But they didn't set it up. That's their fault. They should have been setting up those villains since day one, and
not killing your cool villains.
Yeah. So that's a different discussion altogether, and we've got a lot to cover tonight, so we're gonna move on.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The way this is going to work is we are going to briefly cover every era of Ninja Turtles, and it's been around for 40 years, almost.
Yep.
And so it's it started as a comic book, then it was a cartoon, then a movie, and so on. So we're gonna go through all that. We won't rank everything. There's a lot. Some of it we just haven't seen or read. So we're gonna do our best here.
Mhm.
And as we said earlier, our lists are gonna be vastly different. But let's get started with the where it all started, the Mirage Comics era. So I think it was 1984, and I don't have the years exactly, but that is when Turtles started. So it's like 39 years old right now. So I have up here the covers of the first two volumes of Ultimate Collection. I have these on the shelf. I did not even know the covers connected till I was researching this. So now I want to get all three volumes out, lay them out, and see what the picture looks like.
Just the full picture, yeah.
Yeah. So this is where it started with Eastman and Laird. They started this. It kind of started as a joke drawing, and then they're like, "Oh, we can turn this into a comic book." They independently published it in black and white. It became a smash hit, one of the biggest indie comics of all time,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually led to a cartoon show. This introduced Shredder, the Turtles, Splinter, Casey, April, Baxter Stockman, Utroms, Triceratons, Fugitoid. Although I think Fugitoid was around before this comic. He had his own comic book before Ninja Turtles that they had made. And then they had crossovers with Usagi Yojimbo.
Which, by the way, I'll go ahead and get this out of the way. Usagi Yojimbo is my number one, but he's not on the list, so there's that.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. He's technically not a Turtles character, but he might as well be, as much as, I mean, he's had like 6 or 7 crossovers with them throughout the decades.
He was in several of the shows.
Yeah, almost all of them. Not quite, but yeah. So this introduced a lot of the concepts, and a lot of these stories have been retold over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
The Triceraton invasion that was here, like in issue 4, I think the Triceraton invasion starts. Like right out of the gate, they're just nailing this. One of the turtles getting beat down by the foot, and them having to retreat as the antique store burns down, them fleeing to the farm. This all happened in these early comics, and it's been told over and over and over again, that story.
Yep.
All the Northampton farm stuff, all that is in this original story. So this is like the DNA, the blueprint that is super important to all the continuity. That being said, the stuff by Eastman and Laird, for the most part, is gold. There's a couple of clunker stories, but for the most part, it's excellent. But not all of this is by Eastman and Laird. They had like guest era where they had a lot of writers and artists just coming in telling wacky Ninja Turtle stories. Some are great, some are terrible. So it kind of brings down the era as a whole. That guest era.
And that's kind of what we're having to deal with in general today, because we're having to take the good with the bad. When we rank them, you have to take the bad into account.
Right. The other thing is, for the most part, these comics don't have a lot of humor, which is like a staple of Ninja Turtles. These are very serious comics.
Mm-hmm.
And
let me ask you this, because I still haven't read it yet. Last Ronin, is it more akin to Mirage?
It's written in a way that it could be any continuity. Oh, I forgot to include Last Ronin on this. Okay. I'd have to redo my whole list. We're just gonna leave Last Ronin off for now.
Well, there's not enough of it yet. We're gonna be getting Lost Years soon, so
yeah. Let's see where it all lands. Maybe we'll revisit it in a couple weeks and say, okay, Last Ronin goes here or whatever. Anyhow, also they're kind of figuring out the turtles' personalities as the stories go, because they're just now
Yes.
making all this up, and a lot of that was developed in the 1987 cartoons. They did like a story bible, and the guys who made the 1987 cartoon are the ones who developed a lot of the tropes that we see going forward.
Yes.
So that also kind of counts a little bit against this, is that they, you know, they're kind of
the
still learning the turtles'
Yes.
personalities.
Yeah. Right. I'm going to be honest. The four turtles are indistinguishable
At first, and then as you go on, you start seeing, oh,
Yeah.
Donatel's the smart one. Oh, Raphael's the
Right. Yeah.
hothead, and it, you know, slowly, you know. So there's our list of where you're going to rank where we think they are on the list. Also, if we haven't read or seen it, we will also note that. So,
Mhm.
Caleb, where would you rank Mirage on your list?
So I actually love the Mirage comics. I think the first 10 issues plus the character issues, so that is 14 issues, is some of the probably some of the best 14 consecutive issues of all time. Everything after that, I think is good. On the whole, I do love it. I also love that the origin of the Ninja Turtles is the four turtles were pets of Matt Murdock.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. And so whenever he, whenever the chemical truck crashed, and so he loses his sight, the turtles also get covered in it. And that is the origin of the Ninja Turtles, is that they got covered in whatever got in Matt Murdock's eyes, which is always funny. So for me, I actually put the Mirage comics in my number 4 spot. I love the Mirage comics.
So, for me, I'm going to rank it at, let's see, my list is not numbered. I'm actually going to put mine at number 6. And I know that seems low. It's not. Like the first 6 on this list are all things that I love. It's just some things I think do it better. And as I said, Mirage, they're kind of figuring things out. And so while these stories are epic and awesome and amazing, I think that there's some other versions of Turtles that might get just a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move on to our next one, which I believe is the 1987 cartoon, which is how I would say most of the world knows the Turtles. This ran, I think, for 10 seasons. It was a massive, massive hit on CBS and the syndication for years. This established April as a reporter. It established a lot of their mutant friends, Bebop and Rocksteady.
I think
Krang.
this also gave them the colored bandanas.
Colored headbands. Yes, set those up, and it really defined. Donatello does machines. Michelangelo's the party dude. The whole surfer attitude. A lot of that was established here. Krang, they took all the Utroms and just made one evil one named Krang. So just a lot of things were established here. The Technodrome, just all this iconic stuff. Turtle Blimp was established here. I watched this cartoon like all the time. We had some cable stations when I stayed with my grandparents, and they would like air the same episodes that were in the morning and night. So I'd watch the morning one, and I'd watch it again as a rerun that afternoon. I just watched the show like crazy. And then they had a big action figure line. I mean, this is what most people know when they think of Turtles. What's really strange is this is not streaming anywhere. You can buy it like digitally, but it's not streaming on Paramount. It's not streaming on, Pluto TV.
That's the weirdest thing, that this isn't on Paramount. That's the weird part.
It is bizarre, and I cannot figure it out. I don't know if there's like a rights issue or something.
There's always a rights issue with Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, so I do not know why they don't like. To me, this would be a no-brainer advertising. Oh, we've got the original Ninja Turtle cartoon because this is what most people saw growing up. Caleb, what was your experience with the 1987
Uh,
cartoon?
so this is the show that I would watch whenever I would babysit kids when I was a teenager.
Okay.
So this is not something that I grew up with. This isn't something that I watched a whole lot. Um, so I appreciate it. I do think it's funny, but it's not something that sticks with me on any meaningful level. Um, so and I don't have much to say about it, so I'll just go ahead and tell you my ranking.
Mm-hmm.
Spicy. This is number 9 for me.
Okay. Let me figure out how to edit this. So 1987 cartoon. For me, this is going to rank right below Mirage at number 7. Uh, this cartoon was important, but it's silly. It is so silly. Um, and so if you're wanting something more serious, this is not it. Uh, I recognize how important this cartoon is. It's very important, but this is not the best of Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, even though this is silly, I think there are other things that are silly that do it better.
Yeah, and there were so many things this cartoon did that were interesting. They'd break the fourth wall. The theme song was awesome. There's so many things it gets right, but also it's a lot of just goofy plots over and over and over. And for
Hmm.
10 seasons, it really drags.
Yeah.
They did the weird Red Sky episodes where they try to get more serious towards the end, and it just, I don't know, it just didn't work. So there's our 1987 cartoon. All right, so we're getting a little controversial here. Our lists are already very different, just two cartoons or two things in. So next up is, I believe, TMNT Adventures.
Yep.
So this was a comic book published by Archie. So what happened was you had the serious Mirage comic book coming out, and so they made a version for kids coming out through Archie. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's the Archie version, and it's for kids." This comic's great. And when people actually check it out and read it, they're kind of blown away by the fun characters, the heavy subject matters, just all these characters that a lot of them are unique to this comic book. You have, they visit the future where Raphael's got one eye, and the world's been flooded. Um, they deal a lot with ecological issues, though. That might be a drawback. A lot of this was the 90s, so it's a lot of we got to save the earth type stuff. But it was really great. They established the mutanimals. You can see them in this picture here. You got Leatherhead and Ray Fillet, Jaguar and Dreadmont. Jaguar's the cat back there, and Dreadmont's the one that's like he's actually a Tasmanian devil, or a Tasmanian wolf. You got Wingnut and Screwloose in the back there by I don't know if that's a moon or a sun, and then Mondo Gecko to the right. Then you got Splinter and Ninjara. Ninjara is Raphael's girlfriend. She was a fox. She's actually a fox person. She's not actually a mutant. And
We
they
call
have,
them something different these days.
yeah. What's interesting is I don't think they have rights to this character anymore. Like, I think it's a character rights thing. So they've tried to use her going forward, but they'll change her name to Alopex or other things. But they never call her Ninjara anymore. So you will see Raphael having a fox girlfriend, and it's based on his character, but they can't call it Ninjara. So a lot of things were established here. I was a huge fan of this comic book. I love this image. This is a story where Krang was trying to conquer the Earth, and he had a device that was kind of like an Infinity Gauntlet called a Turnstone. got his every wish, and this entity called Cherube tricked him and got it from him and banished him to a toxic waste planet. So this is him on the toxic waste planet begging for somebody to come rescue him. Um, and I just love how sad he looks. It's great. Um, this comic did establish the Mutanimals. Like I said, they got their own spinoff series. The sales were low, and so they responded by killing off all those characters.
I mean, that's what, of course, if they're not profitable, kill them.
Yeah, and the comic book was abruptly canceled. I think it lasted about the initial comic lasted like about 70 or 60 somewhere issues or somewhere in there. The writer had a fight with the editor, something involving a plot with a dictator from Germany, and the Archie editors thought that was not in line with their comics, and they were having lots of fights about what they could and could not put in the comics. So the writers up and quit, and they just canceled the comic. Which is odd because if you see Archie comics now, they publish anything and everything in Archie comics. But anyhow, I loved this series. This was a big part of my childhood, and you're still seeing things from this comic book pop up in the other movies and TV shows and so on. So I don't think you've ever read any of these, right?
I have no idea what you're talking about. So I've never heard of the Mutanimals or anything like that. I do know Leatherhead,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, I am not familiar with.
Can
this
you
at
go
all.
back an image?
Yes.
Okay, so Ray Fillet up the top right corner was like on the cover of the first issue of this that I ever bought. So he's like one of my favorite characters. He's like a Stingray mutant. And I always looked at the Mutanimals as kind of a little bit of a Justice League take. Like he's your Superman character. Wingnut and Screwloose are your Batman and Robin. Dreadmon runs really fast, so he's kind of like your Flash character. So they were kind of setting up their own team. There was talks of a Mutanimals cartoon at one point that they were pitching. And then it all just kind of went away. And then in the 2003 Nickelodeon series, no, not 2003, 2012 Nickelodeon series, they did bring back a new version of the Mutanimals. So I ranked this, let me pull up the list. I would put this right above Mirage, which is odd because this was the kid version during the time, but
sure.
And you're gonna have yours under did not
read, did not watch, all that.
Okay. Very cool. All right. So this was followed up by, I believe next would be Next Mutation, or no, the movie.
Yep.
This, I remember when this was announced. Well, I remember getting an issue of Nintendo Power, and there was a contest in there that you could win tickets to go see Ninja Turtles the movie, and it had this shot where you really couldn't tell what was happening. It was from the fight in the antique store, so you could just barely make out the turtle in the picture, and it was like, I remember going over that picture with like a magnifying lens to get all the details because it's the first we'd heard of. Oh my gosh, there's going to be a live action Ninja Turtle movie. And this was hype. My uncle ended up taking us to go see it. He was upset with the language in it. Like, how dare they put language in a kid's movie? But this movie is great. I love this film. Caleb, how do you feel about this movie?
I quote this movie every day. There's so much from this movie. This fun fact. This was actually the first DVD that we ever bought whenever we got our first DVD player. And I love this movie so much. Brings so many memories. I feel like I watched this movie probably as much as I watched Deadpool 2 or Iron Man 3. It's up there in terms of comic book movies. Barring Ninja Turtles, this is just a good movie.
Yeah,
And
and I know people don't bring it up, but this is one of the best comic book adaptations you will ever see. It
yes.
follows the comic book almost to a T. There's some differences. In the comics, it's Leonardo that gets beat up by the Foot, and this it's
Mhm,
Raph. Um, they toned down the fight with the Shredder at the end. That might be my only complaint,
mhm.
but yeah, this is very close to almost as perfect a Ninja Turtle property as you could get.
Yeah. So for me, I'll be ranking this at my number 2 slot.
Okay,
I love this movie so much.
I will be ranking this at my number 2 spot.
Hey, we did it.
This is yeah, this is darn near perfect.
Yeah. Our number ones are going to be so different, though.
Oh, absolutely. I already know it's different. So we follow this up with, I think next on the list, we're going to just continue down the movie list, I
Yep.
believe.
Mm-hmm.
So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. This is a bigger movie with a bigger budget. The first one's kind of has like a low budget feel to it, which I think helps the
Yeah.
movie really, the
Oh,
shadowy imagery
it
and stuff.
definitely does. Yes.
This one,
The lighting is too good in this movie. I can't handle it.
they team up with their new friend Kino, who I think played one of the turtles in the first movie, Arnie Reyes Jr.
Yes, I
Who's
believe
a
so.
great martial arts, great actor. I love him. Check out Surf Ninjas if you've never seen it.
I love Surf Ninjas.
It's great.
I think you're the one who introduced that to me as a kid.
It's a fun kids movie. It really is. Yeah, it doesn't get enough love. This movie introduced Toka and Razor,
Yes.
two new mutants from the fight. I was disappointed as a kid that it was not Bebop and Rocksteady. But I don't think that the creators of Ninja Turtles, Eastman and Laird, I don't think they really liked Bebop and Rocksteady. You know, it was a creation by the cartoon people, so they kind of created their own thing here for Toka and Razor. This movie is sillier.
Yes.
It features a big dance number for Vanilla Ice.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You get wrestler Kevin Nash playing a super shredder at the end, which as a kid I loved it, but as an adult I'm like, they don't really fight him. He just hits the pillars and it collapses, which is kind of annoying. One of the weirdest thing about this movie is that nobody uses their weapons in the whole movie. This was because of a complaint from parents after the first movie, so they toned down the violence in this movie quite a bit, which I think hurts the film. It opens with them like in a mall and they're all using like hot dogs to fight with stuff and yo-yos and stuff, which is fun. But when someone points out to you that they're not using their weapons, you're kind of like, oh, they're not. So the other thing that hurts this film, well, two things. There's no Casey Jones in this movie, which Elias Cordius is great in the first movie.
Yeah, I didn't mention that. He's fantastic. He's the one that I quote all the time.
Yeah, and then I'm drawing a blank on her name. The April in the first movie, I can't think of her name.
Judith Hogue.
Judith Hogue is fantastic in the first movie, and they recast her in this one. Basically, Judith Hogue saw the script for this one, and she's like, "No thanks." So the April in this one is not as good. I mean, it's okay, but it's just not as good.
I thought that she was in this one. She wasn't in the next one. I thought she was in this one.
No, she's only in the first one.
Okay.
Yeah. And Judith Hogue is really cool. She has been doing a lot with the Ninja Turtle action figures here lately, doing a lot of convention appearances and stuff. She loves the stuff. So, where do you rank Secret of the Ooze? And we're going through these a little fast just because there's so many of them.
Yeah. So for me, I said that there were things that does silly better than 87. I think this does silly the best, in my opinion.
Okay.
So for me, this is actually, and I was surprised, this is definitely top 5 for me. This is my number 5.
Interesting.
I know. I didn't expect it either, but If I'm gonna go into Ninja Turtles for silly, I'm gonna watch this. Also, there's that scene at the beginning of the movie where everyone is eating pizza, and it makes me super hungry.
It's super hungry, but it's also super gross how gooey all the pizza is.
Oh my gosh, that's even hungrier,
I ranked mine number 8.
Okay.
And, I think the A7 cartoon is awesome. So I think, this is not saying this is terrible. I just think it could have been better if you had made the professor and Utrom and tweaked this and that. It could have been a much more interesting movie. Like if you ask me right now, what is the secret of the ooze? I don't know. I saw the movie, but I couldn't tell you. All right. Next up, we have Turtles 3, sometimes called Turtles in Time.
This sucks.
Hey, they're all looking at you like, what?
Oh man, Donatello's face kind of encapsulates my feelings on this movie.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I was bored out of my mind watching
this. Is super boring movie. Casey Jones does come back, which is fun, but he's just kind of babysitting samurais in the future.
That's honestly the only funny part for me.
Yeah, this movie is not good. The special effects, they cheapened out quite a bit. I think they changed from Henson Company to a different company to do the masks and stuff. You could tell.
Yeah,
it's a very big drop in quality, drop in budget, drop in story, drop in everything. There's no Shredder in this one. It's no villains that we recognize. It's just like a new villain, and they've done. If you think about these 3 movies, they're all based on Mirage stories. But in the Mirage story, you had Renee, the Time Tempest, and Lord Simultaneous, and Savanti Romero, this demon. All the stuff that could have made a fun movie, and it's all missing from this.
No, I think they made this movie just to capitalize off of the Turtles in Time arcade game. I think people like Turtles in Time. We got this time travel story. Let's call it Turtles in Time. Get people to see it. Which was this released in theaters or is this a direct to video?
Yeah, this was theaters.
Okay, this could be a direct to video movie, honestly.
I mean, this was when Turtles was dying, and this did not help the franchise as it was kind of dying in the 80s or 90s, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna guess I know where you're going to rank this. Where are you ranking this?
This is number 11. This is the worst.
Yeah. I'll agree with you. It's pretty bad. Yeah. So yeah, this movie made Krang sad. That's why he's crying in the top picture.
Yeah.
It commits the cardinal sin of being boring. You can make a bad movie, but make it entertaining. This is just, it's not good.
Speaking of,
next up, around this time, Power Rangers was huge, and there were Power Ranger clones everywhere. And so Turtles was no different. They did Ninja Turtles, The Next Mutation. They introduced a female turtle named Venus de Milo. Why is her color scheme blue? I do not know. It should have been any other color besides the 4 turtle colors that already existed. Some people like this. I didn't watch it. So I'm just gonna say no. I think I saw 1 episode and I was like, nope. And I was for some reason I watched a lot of Power Rangers, but I didn't like it. I think I just watched whatever was on back then.
Yeah.
So I was not a huge fan of this stuff.
Well, I am a 26-year-old with 20 seasons of Power Rangers under my belt. I love this stuff. I love Sentai stuff. This is bad. I'll go ahead and let you know this is bad. Even the episode from Power Rangers in Space that involves these characters, because yes, there was a crossover between Next Mutation and Power Rangers in Space. And what I think is funny is as soon as they show up, Ashley's like, oh my god, it's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as if they know the Teenage Mutant Ninja
Oh,
Turtles.
that is bad.
It's so funny. So this is bad, but like, I mean, it's not boring. I'll let you know that. There's one thing that has always annoyed me about this show, though. If they fix this, this would be a perfect bad show. I have no idea what Venus's signature weapon is. She doesn't have one. If she does, it's like a boomerang or something like that. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I mean, it very much is like they made Venus out of like they just made a costume and they're like, what color? Let's go with blue. But that's Leonardo. Lighter blue.
Lighter blue.
What?
It's a girl
Yeah,
color. Yeah.
yeah.
We don't want to go pink. That's too girly. We'll go
Right,
light
right.
blue.
What's her weapon? Sassiness. So yeah, and the problem is the four turtles kind of have like the perfect dynamic. So you put a fifth turtle in there. She really don't have a personality either.
Yeah.
But in general, I do still love this because of how bad it is. This is something. This is like loving Reefer Madness or Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
Now you're making me want to watch this when you say that.
Yes,
I love that stuff.
Absolutely. This is so bad, and I love it. This is my number 10.
Okay.
It is better than Turtles in Time, only because it is more entertaining.
So I will
yeah.
say this about the fifth female turtle, which they've played with that idea a few times. I don't like it. Like you said, I think the four turtles have a perfect balance, and there's a Mirage story that this really sad story they did where the turtles have to face the fact that one day they will be extinct because they can't reproduce.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a sadness to the four turtles that they're unique in the universe, and one day they'll be gone. And so I think we start introducing, female this or that. It breaks that. I think that's a cool story. It gives these characters a sadness, and I like that. So when you start saying, "Oh, now they have turtle girlfriends," you're like, okay, So, all right, what is next on our list?
Oh, hey, look at
that. So this is kind of a cheat right here. This is one of the coolest moments in the 2003 Fox Kids Ninja Turtles show of a possible future. The Turtles 3 cartoon was headlined by Peter Laird, and I cannot think of the writer's name. He just passed away, and I'm going to look him up. The guy that wrote a lot of this wrote a lot of, I want to say, Batman the Animated Series. A lot of the other cartoons that you love was writing on this show also.
Yep.
This this show is mostly an adaptation of Mirage, and then continues on from the Mirage story, telling newer and newer stories. The first 4 seasons and the last season are near perfect. The one big change the show made, spoilers, is that Shredder is an Utrom on the show, so he's like a Krang. That was a fun twist. It is shocking when Leonardo cuts off Shredder's head on this cartoon, because you're like, what the heck is going on a Saturday morning cartoon? And then the episode ends with Shredder walking over, picking his head up, and just walking off. And then you're like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Now, a number of people online had figured it out that he was an Utrom, but I was not one of those people. So when you get the shocking reveal that it is an Utrom inside controlling it, it is great. And his name is Sherelle, and he is an evil villain. It is one of my favorite interpretations of Shredder. He is so evil and dark and just brutal. He continually tortures Baxter Stockman throughout the series for his failures, in what is a gruesome running gag. I love this cartoon. and then they ruined it. Are you still there, Caleb?
I am.
Okay,
And
okay.
I still think that this show is perfect. But go ahead.
So they got to a fifth season, and I guess the ratings had dropped or something. And they're like, well, instead of airing this fifth season, we're going to change it up and send them to the future. And it's going to be called Fast Forward. And at first, I was excited for this because I thought the quality was going to remain the same. And I was like, okay, what's this going to be? And they made it really silly. They kidified it. They brought in Cody Jones, the descendant of April and Casey, and they were going to fight the four evil turtles, and they were just goofy villains. It was just bad. I have seen some of the plans for a season 2 if Fast Forward ever got into season 2, and it would have fixed a lot of stuff. There would have been like a Shredder Utrom, or a Triceraton Shredder that was going to come in, which was going to be really cool. But they killed that, so that didn't work. So then they relaunched it again as Back to the Sewers, where they went back in time. The animation quality changed, the stories changed. It got bad. It got really bad. So to cap all this off, Peter Laird was about to sell the Turtles to Nickelodeon. So he made a final movie, and it was supposed to come out in theaters and didn't, which is a shame. But it is Turtles Forever, which was the 2003 Turtles teaming up with the 1987 cartoon Turtles and ultimately the Mirage Turtles at the end. This is just a fun movie. It does drag a little bit in the middle, but it is a lot of fun. One of the things that the 2003 Turtles did not really do a lot of was other mutants. It was, the Turtles for the most part were the main mutants. I think Leatherhead was like an exception. But for the most part, they were the mutants. Whereas the 1987 cartoon, everybody was mutants. There were just mutants everywhere. So when these meet in this movie, we start seeing other mutants popping up in the 2003 continuity, like Toka and Razor and some other characters. Really fun movie, a nice tribute to Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman at the end. A really good send-off for the end of the original Turtle era. So this movie kind of fixes everything wrong in those last 2 seasons. Oh, and I failed to mention, after they realized that Fast Forward messed up, they brought back the lost season of season 5 where they fought the Demon Shredder. So they tied up some of the loose story ends from there. Okay. So I think that this cartoon is awesome up to a point, goes off the rails, and then gets back on track towards the end. I will say it is probably my favorite version of Casey Jones. It's either this or the movie version. It's close. I think this series gets Casey Jones just perfect, and he's in almost every episode. Any other thoughts?
This show is perfect. Fast Forward is great. I love Back to the Sewers.
You're hurting me.
I love this show from front to back, side to side. I love all of the theme songs. I think theme songs are very important.
Yes.
I think that the original theme song is fantastic. I think Back to the Sewer theme song is fantastic as well. Fast Forward's theme song is all right. It's a little more techno for my taste, but I love all of it. It is my favorite version of all 4 turtles. It is my favorite version of April, my favorite version of Casey, my favorite version of Karai, my favorite version of the Shredder.
Baxter Stockman.
Yes, Baxter Stockman.
He was great.
I love Hun. Hun is just great. And he never gets love. But I love this show. It's my favorite. This is number 1 for me, 100%. This is my favorite Turtles iteration. And Turtles Forever is just a great finale. You know, most of these shows don't get a finale or anything like that. But yeah, this is my favorite Turtles.
You're making me want to re-rank my list. I have it. I have it at number 4. I want to put it at number 3, but I'm going to leave it at number 4 right now, and that's just because I love the top 4. I could swap these at any time. We're like, oh, actually today I think this one's better. But I have it at number 4, and that hurts. I want to rank it higher.
Then do it, man. Then rank it higher, like I did.
I'm going to stick to my list. I don't want to start changing my list because then the whole list will start changing. But yeah, the 2003 cartoon, especially those, like I said, those first 4 seasons. Agent Bishop was a new character they introduced. He's awesome.
Uwe, the Ultimate Ninja, is fantastic. I love him.
Yeah, and Same as It Never Was is one of my favorite Ninja Turtle stories ever, where Donatello disappears and then you see a future where Donatello never came back and everything fell apart.
Yeah, which is is that this?
Let me pop it back up. Yeah, that is that image.
Okay, yeah, it's been a while since I watched it because I don't think this isn't streaming anywhere either.
I think it is. Maybe there is a channel on Pluto TV that just shows Ninja Turtles 24 hours a day, and I think sometimes they show these, and sometimes they show the Nickelodeon Turtles.
Yeah. Oh, and this show also brings me back to the Saturday mornings where I would watch this and watch Yu-Gi-Oh. All my barely Zoomers out there like me, you got into Zoomers just under the timer. Who remembers Juicebox? It was the rival to Video Now that used cartridges instead of discs. I had the Ultimate Ninja episode. That's why I love Uwe so much, because that's the episode that I watch the most. I had the Ultimate Ninja cartridge. I put in my Juicebox, and I would watch it every morning, along with Clash in the Coliseum from Yu-Gi-Oh! So all my barely Zoomers, Juiceboxes rise up.
I have no clue what you're talking about.
Do you remember Video Now, like, at all?
I remember the one on was it Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance, where you'd have the little cartridges that would have the TV episodes.
Right. So it was like that, but it wasn't a game. It was specifically for television shows, and so
these were television shows that you would watch on your Game Boy Advance.
Right. Yeah, no, I remember those two. The Game Boy Video, I think, is what it was called. But no, this was not a game system. This was specifically made so you could watch these. So and had cartridges and all that. They were pretty cool. So just shout outs to that. But yeah, this is my number 1.
This used to be my favorite cartoon, and then I watched some videos that made good arguments for another cartoon, and yeah. So this one's special to me though. This one I do love this cartoon. All right, go to the next one. Whoa!
We are here, man.
Spoilers. So this was also done by Peter Laird towards the end. This was a attempt to revive the TMNT movie franchise. They did a CGI movie. I think Sarah Michelle Gellar was April, if I recall.
Yes, and Chris Evans was Casey.
Yeah. I've forgotten the villain in this movie. I know there's a lot of little monsters they're trying to capture in this movie. But the notable thing, real quick, this is in the same continuity as the first 3 movies, and the notable thing that people remember about this film is the big fight between Leonardo and Raphael.
Oh, it's so good.
All right, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, so it's about this. It's about like I think this Max Winters character, and he's played by Patrick Stewart. By the way, this is a star-studded cast for some reason. But essentially, he's an immortal warlord who desires to be immortal again, so he can die. But what he has to do is he has to like get his brothers and sisters together. Or I don't know if they're brothers and sisters, but like they're all immortal too. And so one of the villain is one of the other warlords that they have to fight. It's a really interesting plot. And I love this movie so much. The Night Watcher. If anything, this is kind of my, because I haven't read Last Ronin. This is my Dark Knight Returns.
Okay. Because the Turtles at the beginning have split up, and Raphael's
Yeah.
now a vigilante called the Night Watcher, and him and Leonardo throw down.
Oh, it's so good.
It's a great fight. All right. I don't have much to say about this movie because I don't remember this movie very well.
Oh, okay.
So let's see. Where do you want to rank it?
So this is actually number 3 for me. So
I'm gonna call it TMNT CGI.
Yeah. So that's right, ladies and gents. You now have my top 5.
So I'm gonna put it at number 9, just because I don't remember this film. It's very forgettable to me, other than the Raphael Leonardo fight, and I remember not being too impressed by the villain. It's fine. Like, I think Secret Ooze is fine. It's it's not terrible. It's watchable. It's just not something that sticks out in my brain.
Sure.
It's called watching and reading Ninja Turtles for 40 years. You don't remember everything. Oh, and let me go ahead and put this on here before we get complaints. Image Comics. Neither of us have read those. There's a newspaper comic strip. Neither of us have read those. So there is more stuff down here that we know. There's other iterations of the Ninja Turtles. We know there's an anime. We know. We just haven't watched it.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to watch the anime.
Yeah. It's just there's so much Ninja Turtles that there's too much. It makes Krang sad. So all right. After this movie, what do we have?
Nicktoons.
So at first I was not a huge fan of this cartoon. I don't like the Shredder on this cartoon. I think his character design is too blocky. What is the voice actor's name? Kevin Michael
Richardson.
Kevin Michael Richardson. He's a good voice actor. I just don't like him as the Shredder. I also don't care for Casey on the show. Casey's too young, and I just have never liked his character on the show. But as the series continued and they kind of figured things out and they started adding things, you start noticing all the fun references that they are doing, almost shot for shot recreations of scenes from the movie, from the old cartoon shows. They do their own version of Turtles Forever. They bring in Bebop and Rocksteady. They bring in the Mutanimals. There's a brutal episode where they meet Slash and he just destroys the turtles. You have this whole humongous soap opera going on with Splinter and his daughter Karai that Shredder kidnapped when she was a baby. So she thinks that Splinter killed her mom and all this stuff. And so she hates her real father, Splinter. You have all this drama. And then they just go and Shredder kills Splinter and they blow up the planet. And the turtles are stuck in space. They got to figure out a way to go back in time and fix everything. And it's, towards the end, the turtles have to grow up. Shredder kills Splinter again. And so Leonardo has to have his final battle with the Shredder. And it is epic. And then towards the end, they do Tales of the TMNT where they just tell these little story arcs. There's one that's like a Mad Max feature. There's one, they do a whole Usagi Yojimbo story arc. There's one episode where they do a spoof of Big Trouble in Little China. And
Yes.
they're constantly spoofing old horror films. Like there's a whole season where they just spoof horror films like the whole season. And it gets really cool. And so, early on they were doing all this gross out stuff. There was, a lot of stuff about the Krangs being stupid. So early on I didn't like it, but the show really grew into something special. There's a whole storyline about April being part Krang and having all these powers, and she vaporizes Donatello. It is shocking. So I think the show just. Well, I'll rank it here in a minute. What do you think about the show?
So this is a show. I'm like you, where I definitely didn't like it first, but it did grow on me. It just didn't grow on me as much as it did grow on you.
Okay.
As far as like what I'm looking for in the Turtles, this show does not deliver. This show does not deliver.
And that's fine.
Yeah. Like, because I love Casey. I love the Shredder. Just stuff like that. This show does not deliver on turtle stuff. That being said, when this show gets weird, I love it.
And it gets weird. They are not afraid to go there.
Yes. Really, for me, when I think of the like I said, we take the good and the bad whenever we rank these. For me, the bad is Shredder and Casey, and honestly, I'm not a fan of Teenage April. That's a personal thing. I also the love story between Donatello and April's weird.
The love triangle for Casey, April, and Donnie.
Yeah. I'm not down weird with that. But for me, like when I think of the good and the bad, when I think of the good, it really is whenever they go into space after the world is blown up. I love all that, and the Tales. And then the Big Trouble in Little China episode is just the best episode of the show. Like, I love
that,
it.
or the one where Slash just destroys the turtles.
Yes,
are really good episodes.
Yeah. I don't like the Dark Phoenix saga with April too. I'm not a fan of that.
I just found it shocking that she killed Donatello, and the way she did it was so graphic for a Nickelodeon cartoon.
Yeah.
It was shocking that they got away with that.
So for me, and the reason that I'm talking so down on this is just to give some perspective, because I do love this show. I love everything above Turtles in Time. I love it, but I have to justify where I'm going to put it.
Okay, so let me jump in real quick. Voice cast amazing.
Yes,
I think this show does humor better than the 2003 series.
Yes, I agree with that.
And Ice Cream Kitty is just fun.
Pizza Gyoza is great as well. I've had that actually, and it's really good. I think this is the best Michelangelo.
Oh, hands down.
So yeah, I'll give him that. This is the best Michelangelo. I do prefer this Bebop and Rocksteady. I prefer this Fugitoid. Like I said, for me, there's a lot going for this. There's just, if I'm ranking it purely based on turtle-isms, this show doesn't do it for me.
And I could see that there's some, like I said, there's some clunkers in here. The Krang subplot goes on way too long.
Yes, absolutely.
So there's some things that don't work, but when it works, it really, really works.
Yeah. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and put this at my number 7 spot.
Interesting. Okay. So I'm just gonna put Nick Turtles. Mine's gonna be at number 3, but you could make me switch 3 and 4. I it would not be hard for me for you to convince me to switch those two. And
it will happen eventually.
Well, I mean, like if you asked me a couple weeks ago, I probably would have said 2003 was better. It just depends on what mood I'm in that day.
I will push 2003 all the way up to number 1 for you. I will make it my mission. But yeah.
Yeah, but if you did not watch the show or you gave up on it after like the first season, give it another shot. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, honestly, that's another thing. Now, did you watch this one consistently when it came out?
Yes, except for Tales of the TMNT because they changed the name of the show and my DVR got confused and didn't know how to record it.
Oh,
Yes.
gotcha. So this is also a show that I gave up on and went back later. So
Okay, and that does happen with some shows that have become my favorite shows. Where I watched the first couple seasons, I'm like, it's not for me. Came back and then grew to love the show. Once, sometimes it just takes a show a while to find its footing, and I think
yeah,
this is one. Uh,
it's
check
like
it.
I mean, Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Yeah,
Those first two seasons are rough, and
yeah,
I know so many people who gave up after those first two seasons.
yeah. If you want to see something trippy, check out the Dream Beavers episode. It's really dumb, but it is the animation is so trippy and so much fun. That episode is wild. Um, so yeah. What is next on our list?
So I'll go ahead and take point on this one.
Well, yeah, because I have not seen these. I'll just go ahead and say that.
So these are the Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There were two movies that came out, starring Megan Fox as April O'Neil, and then you also had what's his name? I can never think of his name, but he plays
Green Arrow.
Sax. No, not Stephen
Oh,
Amell.
oh,
I'm from the first movie.
the you talking about the Shredder, the fake Shredder?
Yeah, Sax is his name. But I can't think of the actor's name. He was in Dark Knight at the very beginning in the bank. But anyway, and yes, Stephen Amell as Casey. I strangely really like these movies.
I'm glad
I
somebody does.
Yeah. So just to go ahead and get this out of the way, I think Megan Fox gets too much crap for anything she does. I think that I think the Transformers movies got because the Transformers movies were bad, but I think they got really bad whenever she left. Um,
Yeah.
and she's great in Jennifer's Body, so I think that Megan Fox gets too much crap for anything she does anyway. Um, but I think she's fine as April. She's not, really any sort of. She's not bringing anything new to the table. But she's fine. I do think that Stephen Amell is a poor choice for Casey
Yeah.
because as you learn, because I was watching Arrow at the time and I loved him in the first two seasons of Arrow, and then the show got bad. One of the most heartbreaking things to learn after watching Out of the Shadows was, oh my God, Stephen Amell has no range whatsoever.
Yeah. He's just playing the same character.
Yeah. But everything else, like with barring your
William Fichtner.
William Fichtner, yes. Which, first of all, I think that was the first and only time I can think of where the fans bullied the studio into changing something, and it was the wrong decision. Because if you don't know, William Fichtner was supposed to be their version of the Shredder.
Mm-hmm.
But people were so upset at that a Sonic the Hedgehog thing happened where they bullied the studio into changing it. Watching the movie, it made sense and it would have been better. I mean, I get it. Oroku Saki, his last name is Sax. I get it. But I mean, honestly, it would have been a better movie if if fans didn't bully a studio into changing it like they always do.
Test screenings have ruined quite a few films over the years.
Yeah.
So I sound like this is one of those moments. Yeah.
But other than that, I actually really do enjoy these movies. I think Tyler Perry is hilarious as Baxter Stockman. I think he's so funny. And
the fans freaked out when they first announced this movie. They're like, the turtles are going to be created by aliens, and people are like, no. And it's like, did you read the comics or watch the cartoon? They've always been created by aliens.
Yeah,
It's always oozed from the aliens.
Yeah.
They do Dimension X, which is a lot of fun. They do their own version of the Technodrome and Krang, and then just to cap this all off, I genuinely think that, and it's not hard to get the actual 4 turtles right. Like it is not difficult. Even the bad get the turtles right. And for the Bay turtles, there's a scene where they're all 4 of them are in an elevator and they're all kind of scrunched in, and it's really funny. And then Michelangelo just starts beatboxing. And this goes on for like a minute or so, where he's beatboxing, and then they all join in, and it becomes like this acapella beatbox rap. And it's hilarious. And that's when I'm like, okay, they at least get the turtles. They
Right.
understand the turtles. So for me, hot take, this actually goes above 87 for me. This is number 8.
Ooh, Caleb.
I know.
What
I
are
know.
you doing, man?
I know.
It's called it Bay Turtles.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it,
yeah.
so it goes on mine. Even though I've got this list a little screwed up, it's down there.
Sure. But yeah. Like I said, I'm not a fan of their Casey, and I do think that the fans were wrong about the Shredder. It should have been William Fichtner. But barring all that, I think it's fine, and they get the turtles, and that's important.
All right. What is next? Rise of the TMNT. Ooh,
Now
boy.
I'll go ahead and put this one out there. I have not seen a lick of the show. I have no idea what the show is.
So this was the follow-up to the Nickelodeon Turtles cartoon. Nickelodeon spent a lot of money on Ninja Turtles, so by golly, they're going to keep making turtle cartoons. So this is a weird cartoon. The turtle personalities are all mixed up. Raphael's the leader. He's still a little bit of a hothead, but he is the leader. Donatello's Donatello. He's, Leonardo's the jokester of the team. And then Michelangelo's like the kid brother of the team. So right away, you've already screwed up the dynamic that has worked, for 35 years. You've already screwed it all up.
I have a question about this.
Uh-huh.
So I am not in the turtle fandom. I just like the turtles. Being in the turtle fandom, do people like this show?
So I'll be honest. I watched the first season of the show and I was out. And then I came back for the Netflix movie. The Netflix movie is really good. In fact, you should probably go watch it. That
Okay.
being said, people who jumped out season 1 like me do not like this show. People who stuck with it said it got a lot better. And so they're like, you know what? This cartoon is actually pretty good. I am not one of those people. Splinter is really weird. He's like a
Oh my god! I just looked at what Splinter looks like.
He's like a hippie that doesn't care about the turtles. He's like, whatever, guys, just do whatever, And so his backstory apparently is radically different. I didn't get to those episodes. Shredder doesn't show up until season 2 because the bad guy in season 1 is John Cena.
What?
Baron Draximus is his character. I think they recast him in season 2, but he's the bad guy in season 1.
Was he like what is he? Is he like a
He's like
mogul?
a Dimension X alien creature. He's almost like reminds me like a high evolutionary type character where he's messing around with mutants.
Okay.
The turtles all get mystic powers at this, so they all have like crazy mixed powers. I will say this: the animation on this show is phenomenal. Like it is hype. It is like super fast paced. Like almost make you dizzy, want to throw up. It's going so fast. I will say that for the show. The biggest problem I think with the show is April, and it's not the race swap thing. I don't care. It is she is so hyper and so much just swing around, hitting things with a baseball bat, just crazy character. She's not April. The personality does not match whatsoever. You might as well just call her a new name You know, it is there's nothing about this that is April. And it's the same thing with the turtles. The turtles are not the turtles. Leonardo's not a jokester. What are you? He says immature, doesn't care, laid back jokester. And they kind of fix this in the movie where Leonardo has to become the leader, which is a pretty good, you know, that's why it's a pretty good story there. But for the series, having Raphael be this brute force leader, it just doesn't work for me.
I think around this time because honestly, going back to the Bay films, Raphael was the main character.
Yeah.
I feel like they were just pushing Raphael a lot.
And to me, okay, let me ask you this: who's your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Leonardo.
I'm a Leonardo guy. There's some people that love Leonardo, and then everybody else kind of falls into either Raphael or the other two camps. And to me, Leonardo's the face of the Turtles. He's the one that's going to have to make the tough choices. He's the one that's going to have to face the Shredder.
He's the one with the will they won't they with Karai, which that one I don't mind for some reason.
So, and he had that in the '87 cartoon with Lotus. It was very much a Karai type character in the 1987 cartoon. I don't know if you remember her. But anyhow, Casey they don't introduce until the movie.
Okay,
he's interesting. But yeah, this is just nothing about this feels like the Turtles. The personalities are wrong. April's wrong. Splinter's wrong. Everything's wrong. It looks like the Turtles, but it's not the Turtles, in my opinion. I do know some people like this show, so let's rank it.
Did not
obviously
watch.
It is number 1 on my list. No, it is number 10 on my list. But yeah. So there's one thing left on my list I know of. What, and did you read IDW?
What's that?
Did you read IDW comics?
Yeah.
Okay. So last on our list, IDW. So let's go ahead and throw that up on the screen.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so IDW is the latest comic book of the Turtles. It is, I believe it's the longest running comic book. I'm trying to think of the original Mirage run because I had the Tales of the TMNT, all that. So I don't know if you add all those together, maybe, but I think IDW's way longer.
I can confirm this is longer than Mirage's.
Because they've had a few volumes of Mirage, 4 volumes, and then there's the Tales. But I think this is the longest, at least consistently longest running series. They're like at issue like 115 right now. And that's not counting all the miniseries and whatnot they have done. Basically, the story on this one is in ancient Japan, Oroku Saki killed Hamato Yoshi and his 4 sons after his wife had also died. And as Hamato Yoshi was dying, he vowed that one day we will return and murder you. We will kill you, Oroku Saki. So his sons are beheaded. He's beheaded. They're all killed. And so they reincarnate into the Ninja Turtles, which I think is such a cool story.
Mm-hmm.
You find out later on how Oroku Saki is still alive in present day, but the Turtles are created. April works in a lab. She finds the Turtles and Splinter, and I might be getting some of this mixed up. There's been so many Ninja Turtle stories. But they've kind of done the hits. They've done the Return to New York, the Northampton stuff, but they've also done like Leonardo Goes to the Dark Side. They've done a story where Bebop and Rocksteady killed Donatello, and I mean they destroy Donatello. They don't just kill him. There's the picture we have up right now is Bebop and Rocksteady destroy everything, which is one of the craziest stories I've ever read, where basically they start traveling through time and just destroy time as a whole. There's an epic final battle between Splinter and Shredder. How much of IDW have you read? Let me ask that.
So I remember reading it as it was coming out, whenever it was first coming out. So there's a lot of the later stuff that I am not familiar with.
Okay.
But yes, I have definitely read, their origin story and all that. So
Okay.
maybe a little bit after that.
So I've read probably 2/3 of it. I have it all on my shelf. I just haven't gotten to it yet. Some of the books have gone out of print, so it took me a little while to get a hold of them, but now I've got a hold of them all. In fact, I've got a shipment on the way from my Christmas gift card of the latest volumes. I've heard that the quality does drop after issue 100. They changed writers for a little bit, but now it's picked back up with this Armageddon game that's going on. They're bringing in a lot of characters from the Archie comics, which is really cool. They've done several miniseries. Baxter is just completely evil in this series. He is just terrible, like just a horrible human being. Slash is really cool in this series. Just all the characters, and they're really pulling from everything. They're pulling from the '87 cartoon. They're pulling from Mirage. They're pulling from the Archie comics. Just all over the place, and they're also creating new stuff. Now they have added a fifth turtle, Janika, I think it's her name. I haven't read much of her stuff yet. That's around the time that I had stopped reading for right now. So I'm not a big fan of adding a fifth turtle, but they did do that. I love this comic. I adore it. I think this is the best Ninja Turtles. Is every issue great? No, but I think this is. If I had one flaw, it would be Casey Jones. he's okay in this, but it's not the 2003 series or movie version. But it's not bad. But in this version, Hun is his father, so they have a lot of falling out. That's a fun story. Splinter is brutal in this comic. At some point, he takes over the Foot Clan, so that's an interesting story. This stuff is just great. I really like it.
Yeah.
So if you'll flip to the next slide, there's this was an anniversary issue where they were just showcasing some of these characters are from the cartoons. They didn't actually appear in the comic, but just to remind you how epic Ninja Turtles is and just why we love it.
Yeah.
It is awesome. Go ahead and go to the next one. So this is just, this was at Vengeance. And I think I stopped reading around. Oh no, I got through Vengeance. I've read through all this. Yeah, you can see how intricate it is, all the miniseries, and there's a lot going on. They introduced a new character named Old Hob, who's this old cat that lost an eye that hates Splinter because Splinter scratched out his eye. So you never know what he's up to. He's always scheming in the background. He forms the Mutanimals in this continuity. Just a lot of fun. So, I mean, you can tell I have one spot left. I rank this number 1 on my list. I think IDW is just the bomb, and it can only get better. So I assume it's number 6 on yours.
Yeah. So for me, it's just because I haven't read as much of it. There is a very strong possibility that it actually becomes my number 4, being better than Mirage. I just haven't read enough of it to actually be able to say that. But honestly, this is probably my favorite origin for the Turtles.
It's epic.
Yeah. So
have you read Secret of the Foot Clan?
Yes.
Where you get Shredder's backstory. That one, that's wild.
Oh yeah.
It's really cool. And Splinter is not like a perfect character. He has anger problems and stuff in this, and that he's trying to control. And it's just cool. Dark Leonardo is really cool when he goes to the Foot Clan.
Yeah. Now, to give you some perspective, I think I stopped. It was somewhere around City Fall. I can't remember where though.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to be reading through these the next couple months. And I'll let you know if my opinion changes. Like, it could just go downhill as I get to. I know the issues after issue 100 are rough, but I heard it's getting, like I said, getting better for Armageddon game. But yeah, it's my number one. So there's our list. If I had to rank Last Ronin, it might be number one or number two. It's really good. it's way up there in quality, and I have to read again. It's still like that out of the theater feeling where I need to let it sink in some more because it's still pretty fresh in my mind.
The honeymoon phase.
Yeah, so there's our list. We'd love to hear your list. Are we right? Are we wrong? Is Caleb crazy for ranking the TMNT CGI movie so high? Let us know.
That's not even my hottest take, I don't think.
I mean, you got the 87 cartoon pretty low. I have the 87 cartoon pretty low also. So
yeah, I have a feeling that just the mere act of putting the Bay Turtles over 87 is my hottest take.
Okay. But there's our list. We would love to hear your takes. I think this is a lot of fun. Maybe have to do something like this in the future of something like Batman or something.
Yeah.
Because and here's what I'll say about Turtles. Some of these shows we love, some of them we don't. Not everything they make is going to be for you. We know we've got this Seth Rogen Turtles movie coming out this summer. And I might look at the trailer and go, oh, you know what? That's not for me. And that's cool because they'll reboot it again here in another few years and it doesn't matter. And I've got all this old classic stuff to watch anyways. I'm fine. And so I would just say be nice to your fellow fans. If they like something and you don't, or vice versa, it's cool. People can like what they want to like. And you can see our lists are vastly different. But we can all agree Teenage Mutant Turtles 3, boring as heck. All right.
Yep.
So that's our show for tonight. Tune in next week as we discuss the new DC movies and what we think is going to work and not work. But until then, I've been Final Monkey.
And I'm Caleb.
We will see you next time. Bye.